Hello, hello. This is Nancy Juetten. I am the founder of Be Your Own Wizard, where you get to step into the spotlight by owning your quirks and being the best amazing person that you can be so the right people will follow you and become your right fit clients. And I am very excited about a special episode that's unfolding right this minute that's almost like two amazing guests in one. Because my very important guest is Lindsay Phillips, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her in just a minute. And I'm also going to be interviewed a little bit during the show, so you can appreciate the change in direction that I have embarked upon this year and why it matters to you. So let me first introduce you to Lindsay Phillips. Lindsay Phillips is the CEO and founder of Smooth Business Podcasting, and she and her team are the people that I rely upon to do all the amazing content repurposing that I do with this episode and all of my shows so that the episodes can live on indefinitely on social media, YouTube, and everywhere else. And they are world class in the way that they do that. But Lindsay Phillips is also someone who has become incredibly masterful at guiding her clients to have conversations that convert. If you've ever been on a podcast and spoken up and heard crickets after the fact, what Lindsay has to offer you today is an antidote to that ailment so that it'll never happen again. And if you need more and deeper support around how to do that, well, there's going to be a way for you to do that. And you all know me. I'm the founder of the Be Your Own Wizard. I've been the Get Known, Get Paid mentor for a very, very long time. And many of you probably know that I got on my rocket ship to success with the book called Bye Bye Boring Bio that turned into kind of a big deal. And I have since reinvented many times throughout the years, each time as a creative entrepreneur, finding a new and better and even more rewarding way to be of contribution. So with those introductions, welcome, welcome, Lindsay, to the show. Thank you for being here.
Woohoo! Absolutely. I love any day I get to chat with you, but for us to be talking about our businesses and the changes that we've done, I hope it inspires others to really follow their heart and their purpose and what they're here to do.
Yes, yes, I think that is so, so important. Now, one of the things I wanted to start off with saying is that not all of us are not the only one that does what we do. Since 2020, I have been teaching a lot about podcast guesting and how to make it work. That's 5 years in the trenches guiding thousands and thousands of people about podcast guesting. And here you are, someone who's a podcast guesting expert yourself, and I'm having you on my show. I have a very abundant attitude because I believe that there is the perfect expert for every one of us. And if it isn't me, well, sure as heck ought to be you. So, what are you most excited about in your business today, Lindsay?
Thank you for saying that. And yeah, I don't believe in any competition. I think we all bring something unique with our own personalities, different offers, and even working with different people. And you've always been so gracious in that department. And of course, working with you in your Love Your Business, Love Your Life inner circle, that definitely shows such a great group of people. So I've obviously been in the podcasting space for a very long time. And I'm really leaning in more to helping guests. I really find that the podcasting space is very much focused on hosts and like sponsorships and monetizing and growing the show. And I sort of feel like guests are sort of left there going, I'm guesting on shows and nothing's really happening and they don't know why. So then they're like second guessing their messaging. They're like, is it me? Is it no one wants to hear what I have to say? And then they're like changing their offers or they're changing their talks or they're, moving away from what it is that they're really meant to do. And that like is just so brutal and heartbreaking. And I'm like, honestly, with just a few tweaks with their strategies and how they leverage and repurpose the episodes, you can totally create authority boosting content. You can have the intentions and the strategy so that you can create conversations that convert and get more results from guesting because it's such a great strategy. And so I don't want people quitting anymore. I want them to just dive in there with full confidence.
I love that. And podcast guesting can be a powerful vehicle for any expert, provided they double down on the strategy and give it enough time to really
Mhm.
work. And I would say that's true about any strategy. If you're going to be doing webinars, you
Yeah.
can't just do one webinar and say, that did or didn't work, that method doesn't pay off for me, on to the next thing. If that particular tactic that you've chosen feels aligned for you and it's what you do well, and in this particular case, having conversations with experts is something you really enjoy doing and are lit up about, don't try it once, let it see what happens and call it a day. Double down and really make a commitment to it. So when you're working with your clients, what do you advise them to do? How much time should they give to podcast guesting so that it can really give them enough of a runway to work out the way that they want it to?
That's a great question. I mean, I think it's a great supplement even if you are a host, right? To get more content from that and more visits to your podcast. Or again, if you're doing webinars, it's easy to have that kind of stacked marketing where you're doing a few different strategies and then like you said, get better at guesting and finding out where the gaps are. For timing, I mean, you do need to get out there more. You need to be visible, to be seen, to be heard, so that you can grow your e-list, get more clients. And it's not like you can get on one show that even if they have, a million downloads, it's not to say that one show is going to all of a sudden make you famous and have all these leads coming in. It's being really strategic about what kind of shows that you're guesting on. Are you getting in front of the right audience that really wants what you're sharing? And being consistent and then tweaking your message slightly and seeing what's working and what's not working, tracking the results that you're getting, and just being consistently visible. I mean, when you're sharing episodes that you've guested on consistently and you're publishing it on your website and you're, creating reels and all the things, people see you differently, right? Like you're more credible. People are like, "Oh my God, you're everywhere." And if you're seen in that way, that you're everywhere and you're a guest expert speaking on shows, you're naturally going to get more opportunities to speak on stage, be a part of giveaways, summits, speak at actual live events. So the more you do it, the more opportunities that will come up for you. But then also, the more aware people are of what you're doing, you're able to share your expertise and you can use it to generate leads and clients. And so you just have to keep doing it consistently. It's not like you can, bang out 25 episodes in 2 months and then like call it a day and, hope they work and then that's it. It's just that consistent visibility. It's using it for all of those different reasons, not just for exposure and walk away. You can get leads and clients. You can use it for web content. You can use it to get more opportunities. So there's actually more. I don't know. I'm sure you would have a really cool phrase like more juice in the pitcher than you think there is.
Well, one of the things that I often say, and I say this kind of with a wink and a grin, but the almond growers on television would say just 2 cans a week. That's all we ask. They want you to get in the habit of eating almonds every day because they're good for your health. It's good for the almond growers. It's good for the economy world. And so I think to myself, just 2 podcasts a month as a consistent, steady
Totally.
diet. If you can make the time to have two juicy, delicious, intoxicating, relatable conversations,
Yeah.
right experts every single month, you will be in the practice of refining your message and getting feedback about your message while still allowing time to do the other things that you need to do as well, the enrollment conversations, leading the webinars, doing whatever else it is that is calling to you. But 2 podcasts a month, that's all we ask. And
Yeah. It's not that
because
much. And then you've got content that you can use. So you're not banging your head against the wall trying to figure out what content to create. It's like, it's just more than a triple win.
and the other thing is that there are many people, experts, authors, consultants, people that are wanting to be out there. They're thinking, all I want is a bunch of speaking gigs, speaking gigs, speaking gigs, speaking gigs. But unless you're practiced at delivering your
Hmm.
message, it's pretty hard to get those gigs. And I should sort of turn this spotlight to you here is that you have a show of your own and you've been speaking about podcasting and podcast guesting in particular. And isn't someone from one of the most well-respected podcast guesting matchmaking sites coming to you again and again to speak in TED Talk like style on his platform to share your message? Tell us about that. How did that all happen?
Yeah. That's a good question. I've known Alex for a really long time. Um, yeah, my memory sucks. But I have been on his show and he's been on mine, and I've spoken at his virtual events, and he has asked me to return. I think this will be my third time, I think, which I think is somewhat unusual, but I'm super excited. And we just get along, and he loves the message that I'm sharing, and it's obviously tuned into his audience.
For
And
those
so
who
I
are
think
listening or watching, Alex Sanfilippo is the founder of Podmatch, which is one of
Podmatch is amazing.
the best podcast matchmaking sites on the internet today. And one of the things I like best about it is the community that he builds around the mechanism that is his site. It isn't just a shell of an organization where you can go and find guests and whatever. There's real relationships there. And if you are the kind of person that likes to create and nurture meaningful referral relationships, joint venture relationships, reciprocal show swapping relationships, Podmatch is the place where you should go. But you are referring to he has like this TED Talk like
Hmm.
event. And what is it called? I'm trying to
Pod Pros or
maybe it's Pod Pros, but you've been
yeah.
a guest on his very exclusive podcast three
Mhm.
times. That doesn't ha
Yeah.
that doesn't happen when you're not good at it,
Thank you. And
right?
then again, being visible and having my own podcast and being very clear about my messaging and my focus. And so when he sees me, obviously guest on podcasts, I repurpose it. He knows what that content is. And then he knows, I'm already vetted. He likes what I have to say. He wants it on his platform. So guesting on podcasts in that way will get you opportunities. Absolutely.
So it's the visibility, it's the credibility, and then of course folks are interested in the profitability. You're lucky to have someone like me in your corner who thinks that your podcast guest repurposing service is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Anyone that's curious about what that looks like, you can simply take a visit to my YouTube channel to look at the shorts and also watch me on social media because this is the wizard behind the curtain that takes my episodes and turns them into magic. And if you've been looking for someone that can do that, well, voila, here she is. But you're super excited about this Conversations That Convert, and you have a new report that is really powerful. Can you tell us about it? What is it, and why do we want it?
For sure. So part of the problem that I was seeing with guests that weren't getting the results that they wanted was almost like their, for lack of better terms, their mindset going into it. They were very much relying on the host to do all the heavy lifting. And they just thought, oh, just showing up and, getting exposure, people will find me. And so I was finding a lot of patterns. And so the guide from crickets to clients, it's 5 shifts that will change the way that you do podcast guesting for real results. And so just like common thoughts and then what to do instead and how to fix it. So yeah, that guide, even if you take one of those things and change it, it will change the trajectory of the results that you'll get for sure.
So I want you to say the name of that report one more time because that was pretty compelling.
So crickets to clients, 5 shifts to bring real results to your podcast guesting.
So would you be willing to share one or two of those shifts live while we're here today?
Yeah, of course. So one of them is feeling like I just want to have an organic conversation. I hear that time and time again. I don't need to prepare. I can just wing it. I don't want it to feel scripted. So we're just going to have an organic conversation. And hosts say that too, right? Hosts will just be like, oh, we'll just get on and we'll just like talk about what you do. Here's the problem with that is that you can have an organic conversation and still be structured and still be strategic. Because what happens is when you say to the host or they say to you, let's just have an organic conversation, the conversation goes all over the place and the host goes rogue. And here's one of the biggest problems that can often perpetuate it. So, like, when the host looks at your one sheet, typically there'll be like three questions, right? Or three topics, sorry. And then there'll be like 7 or 10 questions. And those questions are like a little bit about this topic, a little bit about that topic, maybe about your journey and stuff like that. And so by default, they may either read those questions or ask questions of their own. And it's almost like the conversation is like enough to make you dizzy. It's like a little bit of this, and then it goes off on this tangent, and then, oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? And by the time you're done with the conversation, you get off going, oh, I never got to talk about my podcast leverage system, or I never got to talk about this method that I do and how I help my clients get this result. And then what happens is too, then you give the lead magnet at the end, like your call to action, and it kind of has nothing to do with how the conversation went. The listener isn't brought down this path. I call it the bridge to profits. They're not being taken from their pain through this conversation to your premium offer. It's this random conversation that's kind of confusing. You're not being positioned as an expert in the way that you would have hoped, and sharing those results and sharing those stories. And then the call to action just doesn't make sense for the listener. And so there ends up being this huge disconnect. And that is like one of the biggest problems.
So just to sort of reflect back, start with the end in mind. If the problem is that there's crickets instead of clients, then every conversation point leading up to the opportunity to share the crickets to clients special report needs to be relevant and congruent to solving that problem. And so the guest can take control of the situation and actually
Hmm.
pose questions that make sense. It's almost like paving the yellow brick road to Oz. If you follow
Yeah.
the recipe, you will get to the destination. And so you teach people how to do that, right?
Yeah. I absolutely love it. And so
So
obviously
what,
you
so,
have to,
so let
what's
me
that?
ask you another question.
Yeah.
You've
Okay.
had the opportunity to work with many clients in this work that you do. Is there a success story that stands out with someone who once was from crickets to clients and feeling disappointed, who now looks forward to every podcast guest spot because they know they have a system that delivers the results that they want, which typically is enrollment conversations or opt-in subscribers or perhaps some other outcome?
Yeah, I mean, I can just think of like just the other week, I haven't heard from her since she's been on the shows, but we were working through her interview questions. I call them an interview GPS. So it's basically like your compass to a converting conversation. So she had a lot of questions that sometimes she gave the hosts, and sometimes, again, it was an organic conversation. But the questions weren't leading from the pain to the offer. And the offer that she was giving, she was kind of giving it away throughout the conversation. And so it wasn't, they weren't hungry for more.
Hmm.
And so we changed the interview questions so that it was talking about the problem from the listener's perspective, not her perspective. Because think about it, right? Like how what I know the problem is compared to what the audience thinks the problem is. If you're only talking in your language on like I can't think of an example right now, but what you know the real problem is, they're not gonna be hooked and they're not going to be compelled to listen to more because they're not like, you want them nodding their head. Oh my God, yes, totally. I was just thinking about that the other day. That's totally me. You want to like pull them into that conversation. So that's one piece that they were missing. And then later, we had to change the interview question. So it wasn't all about the tips. It was really giving that overarching, okay, this is what you think the problem is. This is what the actual problem is. And then that's where we weaved in. And I asked so many questions. And they're like, where are you going with this, Lindsay? And I'm like, stay with me. And then, so I really started to understand of like how they're working with their clients. What is their process? What is their method? So that I can really understand why her clients are getting results, but also what is making her different and how does she weave herself, her personality, and her experience into that. And so then we have to like fix and think about the interview questions so that she can share like, oh, in this program, I deliver this framework. I can't go into all of that today, but I can share you these tips so that they're understanding how people are working with her. They understand her expertise. They understand what's setting her apart and the results that her clients are getting. Then they're getting a taste of like some tips. And then the lead magnet, the offer, totally makes sense. Yes, I want more of that. So it's like there's this whole journey and strategy behind it all. And as I was doing it, she was just like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Or like, ooh, that does make me sound like smarter. I love that you used that example. And we like pulled that result out that I can showcase because then people are going to understand how she works with them and what she does. So it was just like this aha went off. She's like, oh, I'm going to feel so much more clear, confident, and powerful going into that conversation.
Well, and if
That
people
was long-winded. I'm sorry.
but if you can be clear, confident, and on message, on demand, when you're in relationship with one influential person, and there's a curated audience that's listening, there's going to be people that will be hearing that from your perspective who will say, this is the expert that I have been looking for. And when they download your free report, and within the report, it says, if you feel called to chat further, here's how you can book a call. Could it be that your clients are welcoming more enrollment conversations and welcoming more opportunities to bring their invitations to the right people and more speaking gigs and these kinds of outcomes?
Mhm. Absolutely. And it's like for me too, it's like I've, changed my own craft, so to speak, and my own messaging. And like even just a couple of months ago, I got like a couple of hundred extra leads just from one episode because it was clear, concise, on message, and they were getting a direct result. And so
Who
when you see
want
that,
you want 100 or 200 more leads from a podcast episode,
yeah, right?
right?
Yes, please.
Well, and I know you have a bias. We've talked about it before, but there are those who prefer to deliver webinars in a very conventional, formulaic approach that is being taught by many gurus today, and many gurus are having great success with that, and so are some of their students. But there are some people that, for whatever reason, are resistant to that particular modality or method. And the beautiful thing about podcast guesting is that you can show up as you really are in relationship with someone with influence and not be confined or constrained by that particular structure.
100%. And like I said, like you can craft these interview questions and give them to the host and position it in a way that, hey, I want to make sure that you're prepared. Here are some interview questions to make sure that we guide the conversation so I can give the most value to your audience. And even if they like you, they're not going to read them perfectly in, line, but there's always ways and different techniques to kind of like bring that conversation back. And you're not going to talk like you're reading off of a script, but you're mentally going to be super prepared and pull that conversation back so that it's clear. I know when I do reels for people that are guesting on shows, and sometimes, like, your stuff, but when you're talking on a podcast, what can happen is because you don't have a clear talking points, you're like, it just kind of meanders and sounds generic. And it's like, I'm even having a hard time like finding a little clip that's like, let's just shorten that so we're clear and concise. And pulling those goodies out. That's what I love about how you talk, because I can like pull out so many good nuggets and it's so fun for me.
Well,
But yeah,
that
you,
sort of leads me to something that I learned from my many years as a publicist is
yeah,
that if in the next couple minutes, I have at least three ideas that could be powerful for you to make your guesting experience more fruitful. And then you can even say to yourself, number one, bam. Number two, bam. Number three, bam. And then you have the content that you can
yeah.
capture that would offer some kind of a wow reaction for someone who is listening. And so if you're watching this today and you think to yourself, I'm just having a conversation, think about how you can speak in sound bites. And that is another area of opportunity and expertise that you have. So let's talk about sound bites. I mean, how important are they? What are they? And how can we get better at it?
I know they can feel awkward, but you need to actually write them out. Like, think about how can you illustrate a point that's in your talk or your conversation and use an example. So, when, Jennifer rejigged her interview questions and weaved in more of her expertise and the results that she brings and seeded her programs, an aha went off, and she realized that she's now positioning herself as an expert, and the people that are listening to her actually understand how they can work with her, and so she's getting better results from her podcast episodes. So that was probably even a bit of a long-winded, but you can write them out or in bullets, but you want it to be fairly short and succinct. So like,
Well,
kind
like
of
an
like,
example from my world, when I talk about JV partnerships, I'll say, if it's not a fit, you must not commit.
yes,
And it's the kind of thing that just sort of rolls off the tongue, and people say, oh, well, but thanks for putting it just so. I'll remember that. When I was selling my book, Bye Bye Boring Bio, I'd say, who wants to transform their boring bio from wallpaper to wow right now? And it was like, oh, I want that. It's a great way to ask a question, but see, there was sort of some fun in it. Bio, wow.
yes,
Now it's like, oh, that's sort of fun to hear. So it needs to
I
perk
know.
your ear in some way that people will remember it.
Yes.
I also remember when Bill Gates was starting out with Microsoft way back in the day, and anytime he did a media interview, the people that would be asking him questions would say, well, Bill, tell us about this and tell us about that. And every answer to every question was, I'm really glad you asked that. And what I really want you to remember as a result of our conversation today is that there must be a computer on every desk everywhere around the world. There must be a computer on every desk everywhere around the world. He repeated that multiple times throughout the interview. And if you finished the interview and I thought, what did I just learn about that? You would remember computer on every desk everywhere around the world.
Yes,
That was that. So how can you cull down your sound bites into those kinds of phrases that perk your
that's
ear
true.
and make a point? You know?
Agreed. And that's where too, where you have like your frameworks or your processes. And it's like, even for me, like calling the podcast interview conversation a bridge to profits, or calling your interview questions your interview GPS. So, like, those little catchphrases as well kind of perk people's ears up and get them to picture it in their heads a little bit more. And if they can picture it in their heads, they're more likely to remember. And if they're going to remember, they'll remember you and your business.
I love that. So if someone wants to run and not walk to get the from crickets to clients special report, I will drop the link in the show
Yes.
notes so people can run and not walk to that. And I'm imagining that there's also a way to work with you directly with your Conversations That Convert program. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that is?
You bet. So I work one-on-one with them, podcast guests, and we look at their avatar. So you get an avatar, a report, obviously look at your offers and reverse engineer your offers and figure out what the best talk topics are. We create your billboard ready talk topics, create your interview GPS, so your interview questions so that they're strategic. Create message pavers, which basically are talking points to take the listener over that bridge to profits, and also look at your story sound bites and figure out your call to action and what the best next step is. And even if you don't have the best call to action right now, we will map it out and figure out what would be the best call to action that would make sense. And of course, I listen to the podcast episodes after it's all implemented and we have all that dialed up and dialed in and ready for you to go to the next podcast interview. And then I will make sure to critique and give you feedback so that you've implemented it to perfection.
That sounds like such a blessing to people, especially for people who can't get out of their own way to see their own awesomeness. If anybody is sitting there going, my interviews are not converting, I'm not sure why, who can I talk to who can actually examine and diagnose what I'm doing well, where I have opportunity to improve, and how the message needs to be dialed in more directly so that it can be profitable. That is the beautiful benefit of what it is that you're offering with your Conversations That Convert premium program. And so I will be sure to put the link to that in the chat as well, because I'm pretty sure that when people go to get crickets to clients, they're going to want to have a chat with you and see how they can have that too. And I also want to say that while I have done this kind of work over the last 5 years, I'm shifting in my own business into some other ways that I want to contribute. And so for those folks that are excited about podcast guesting, it's my deep honor to be sharing my advocacy and championship of Lindsay Phillips's program so that you can benefit from the folks that want to learn more. And I can feel good knowing that they're in brilliant hands.
I appreciate that. And I am so excited for you. We've known each other for a long time. And again, both been in the podcasting space, and especially since I've been a part of your inner circle. And I feel like everything that's happened with you in the past couple of years has all led to this. And I know in the inner circle, you're so advocating for everyone, but to be like, create your business on your own terms and not necessarily copying other people. And like, you want to love, just like the title, you want to love your business, but I don't want the launches. I don't want the stress. I don't want the Facebook ads. I don't want to work with clients that bring me more stress than joy. And so, like, how can I fill my purpose and do what I want my way? Like, that is what you do. And the fact that now you're like living it, I love it. So, let me ask you this. So I feel like you came out more with the Be Your Own Wizard in this pivot when you were at the Soul Leadership event in February and you gave a talk. And so share what that talk is and like where that came from.
Well, I've been a fan of Broadway musicals my entire life, and not long before the Soulful Leadership Retreat, I went to see Wicked in the movie theater. And I was really struck by Elphaba, the green witch, who was thinking that if she could just meet the wizard, her whole life would change. If she would just meet the wizard, her whole life would change. She and the wizard could accomplish amazing things together. But the trouble was when she looked behind the curtain and saw who the wizard really was, he was flawed, he was imperfect, he wasn't really who she thought he was. And she was called to fly free and work her own magic, even though it might have been the harder path. And I thought after my 24 years of doing business online, maybe it's time for me to do that too. Because we've all wondered, boy, if so and so would just mail for me to their influential list, my whole life would change. Or if so and
Right.
so would just invite me on their stage, my whole life would change. Or if so and so would just have me on their show, everything will be different. And so, what the Be Your Own Wizard movement is all about is taking responsibility, 100% responsibility for what you want to do and how you want to do it, building your own audience, building your own platform, and not waiting for permission to work your magic and to start right now. And so that is really the flag that I've been waving since February. The feedback on that talk was off the charts.
Hmm.
It's really validating. And I think that as many people that have watched Wicked in any way, shape, or form have thought, oh, maybe it's time for me to fly free and greenify myself and let my freak flag fly, because there are an awful lot of karaoke singers that are copying someone else doing something similar. And I say, bring your full self to whatever it is that you're here to do and make it happen. And so, to that end, I have been a word wizard my entire life. I came out of the womb
Hmm.
with a pen in one hand and a megaphone. I have been using words to make magic for myself and others my entire working career. And so, with the advent of ChatGPT, my own talent as a copywriter and a word wizard has just been amplified. And so, it's no longer, it feels, it feels, I feel contained only talking about podcast guesting. I really want to expand what I get to talk about and incorporate my whole journey. And I want to focus on helping people make their message match their magic and for
Yeah.
them to attract the right opportunities so they can work it now, not next year, not someday, but right now, because we don't know how much time we have on the planet and we should be making it happen now.
I love it. And I, of course, have been witness to your mastery, your word mastery, where you've helped me so many times. But I love how you really understand people deeply. Like you see like their sparks and like what makes them amazing. And like you pull that out and then just like lickety split, you like put out words on paper and it's like, I don't even know how you just did that. And they sound like magical and perfect and succinct and engaging. And yeah, like you have an absolute gift. It's like, I wish I had like half of that.
Well, you do have it. That's the thing. That's why I want to be referring the podcast guesting work to you because you have it too. It
In
takes
a
one
different
to
way.
know
Yeah.
one. It takes one to know one. But what I decided and is that the messaging magic is what I love the most. And so I now have messaging magic half day VIP days that people can say yes to. And I get to spend a half day working on the biggest problem that's keeping people from attracting the thing that they want and to create magic in the moment so that they are no longer stuck. And because I teach people to fish so they're not hungry, they walk away really transformed like, oh, I really do have a message. It really is powerful. And I know what it is that I need to say to make it real for people. And so I love these half days with people, and if people want to repeat the opportunity to do it again and again as often as it serves them for all the things that they need, they're welcome to do that. But the other thing that I spend a fair amount of time with is leading my Love Your Business, Love Your Life inner circle. And girlfriend, come through a cancer diagnosis, you wake up one day and you say, I don't, it's not enough to have a great business. I want to live my life.
Mhm.
So I'm the walking, talking poster child of someone who has completely changed where I live, what I do, how I do it, why I do it. And I am loving my life as well as loving my business. And I want to be around people that are equally committed to that endeavor. And so leading the Love Your Business, Love Your Life inner circle is my opportunity to both advocate, champion, support, and encourage my fellow members to have that outcome. And unlike some quote unquote masterminds, it isn't always about how many zeros or commas are in our income. It's how is it feeling to do your life and do your work? And is this feeling rewarding to you every day at some intrinsic level? Because when we are on our deathbed, we are not going to be saying, I wish I had done another 10 huge launches. We're going to wonder how many people we touched and transformed with our message and how we helped them and supported them. And that's really why this leading this inner circle is so meaningful to me, because these are real relationships with real people. 100% of the people that join me are still with me, 2 years later. I mean, that should tell you something. People love being in this intimate circle where they can show up, tell the truth, get the support they need, and celebrate what good is happening in their lives and their work. And as as someone who's done a fair amount of podcast guesting in my lifetime, I often say to myself and to others, what is the conversation you most want to lead right now? That is the conversation I want to lead right now, which is love your business, love your life, because one without the other isn't good enough. And if you want to be in a community where that's what it's all about, well, let me hear from you and
Yeah.
I'll see if this is a fit for you. And the question you might want to ask yourself is, what do you have to bring to the community to make it worthwhile for us and for you? Because this isn't just about people that take, it's about people that give and receive in equal measure.
And what I love is that like we all understand each other so well and like what we all value. And so when we do talk marketing or something comes up, we automatically see opportunities. We'd be like, I don't think that's aligned with who you really are and what you want to accomplish. But what about this? And then just like the ideas that come up, and you can just see someone light up and like, oh, I love that. So we're able to support, like, yes, we talk marketing, but like to be able to really support about like what your core values are, what you really want to accomplish and how you want to do it without the stress, I think is amazing. So
Well,
let
so let me just share this.
yes.
One of our people was sharing that the Amazon bestseller book launch model has been turned on its ear, and it is going to be more and more difficult to get to an Amazon #1 with the traditional book launch model. And she was feeling a little dismayed about it and a little bit burnt out. And she was talking about how she was going to talk to other book launch specialists to see what they're going to be doing to pivot or make changes or embrace the new model. And I was thinking to myself, do you even want to continue to do this particular work?
Yeah,
Driving you, it's getting on your last nerve and it's totally outside your control what the outcome might be. Isn't there some other better, more preferred way that you could serve your magic that would be within your control, that could be lucrative, that would be rewarding and enjoyable? And it was like, gosh, I wish I would have had a V8, because just because you've done it this way all this
I
time,
know.
you'll have to do it that way. And that was just an example of someone getting the the 2x4 to the forehead that she needed to say, oh, I don't want to waste my time chasing something that doesn't suit me anymore. I'm going to do the thing that I love. And when she gets to do the thing she loves, it's
I
going to
know.
naturally attract more people who want to do more of that too.
Agreed. And she created this program. So like now it's the impetus to really like make her get it out in the world. Like if she's been holding back and then, it's like things happen for a reason.
Well, and if you're going to really be your own wizard, that means kind of putting on some blinders and saying, what is the conversation you lead? What is the contribution that you can best make right now? What is the specific, terrific way that you can serve this up so people can get the transformation? And can you let people know how they can play? And, put the blinders on and don't worry about the rest of it, but just get
Yeah,
answers down. And you brought up the values piece, and it's like, there are all different kinds of business models out there that we can chase to make 6 figures or 7 figures or put lots of commas in our income. But if the thing that you're chasing feels repugnant to you, it doesn't matter how well you follow the yellow brick road. It's likely energetically
I
not going
know.
to the results. So I really am big on people naming and claiming what they really care about so that they choose the model that's right for them. And also so they can put what they care about, their values, their tone of voice, who they really are, into the words they speak and write where
Yes.
their clients are finding them. Because we don't need more karaoke singers. We need people that are showing up truly as their authentic best selves. And that's really the gift that I like to give to people.
I love that. And so going behind the scenes to like pull the curtain back a little bit, both you and I went through a program in the fall to create a webinar that was very structured, lots of slides, and like it's working a ton for many people. So I'm not knocking it, and it gave me some value. But you have kind of went, I'm going to do it my own way. And I love that because now I'm like, yeah, like I've been resistant. And like, why can't I do it my own way? And so you do these workshops that are talking about these core values, figuring them out, and like helping people dial in their message so that they're bringing that core value and living the life that they love and creating a business that they love. And it's like you're even working with people like right on the call and like working with ChatGPT and changing their messaging and their bios. And I'm like, you're lit up. And I'm like, you can see the results, and like your attendees are like, man. So, talk about how the core values a little bit more fit into that and those workshops, because I love that you're doing it your way
Well,
and
thank
it's working.
It is. It's very exciting. I've hosted, I called them the six crucial questions inner circle roundtable the first three times that I hosted. And in every case, the light bulbs went on with the people who were participating, how they weren't bringing themselves to their own message. And then, because I'm a little bit of a geek and like to watch the numbers, I was noticing my conversion rates, not only from click to lead, but from lead to sale. And I thought maybe I need to give this a new name because I don't think this name is working. So I've changed the name of the workshop to be Align Your Message to Match Your Magic so you attract right fit clients.
Perfect.
And the next one is coming up July 24th. It's free to attend. It's it's me guiding you and pulling out of you what you care the most about, and then demonstrating with my own Nancy's word wizard how that message can be transformed into something that will really shine bright live and in the moment. So you can actually leave the workshop with something you can work with and use
Yeah.
and say, oh my gosh, where's the rest of it? Because this is really what excites me. For me, I know what webinars are, and I've done plenty of them, and I've enrolled plenty of folks into group programs and
Mhm.
such. But I like to demonstrate the magic so people can believe in it and feel satisfied in the moment, but also hungry for more. So we'll have to see how well this works, but I am practicing my own be your own wizard advice, which is this is the way I want to do it. I feel
Yeah.
really rewarded when people show up and get the magic. And I know that I am a fresh voice in a sea of sameness that appeals especially to creative entrepreneurs and people that need a brilliance reflector to see what's true and special about them. That's my gift, and I want to work it every day. So I'll drop a link in the chat to the next
Mhm.
one coming up. And if that's exciting to you, I hope that you'll join me because the transformations that happen. I mean, we had a sailor
They're
from the
so
Naval
good.
Academy, and he said, Holy, you know what? That's impressive. And another woman, I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you that this has named and claimed who you are and why you're special? She says, this isn't a 10, it's a 12.
Sweet.
That's really satisfying
Yeah.
for them, and it's satisfying for me. So let's do more of what really lights us up and be, I'm greenifying myself. This is my freak flag flying, and if you're hungry for it, I hope you'll come.
Yeah. I love that. And you have inspired me so much to like, to change things in my own business and really kind of put that mirror in front of me to be like, okay, but you may want to try this, but do you really want that? And so, or, you question yourself, or why do I have resistance?
Well,
And I'm
so
like, no, I can do it my own way.
another little soundbite is, is it cake or is it cringe? Is it cake or is it cringe? Because there's all kinds of things we can do that can pay off. But if you're going kicking and screaming to do it, the likelihood of it working out is pretty darn remote. So for those of us on any length of time on our journey as entrepreneurs, yes, you're smart to tune into the experts and the gurus who have zeros and commas in their income, and that's awesome. But once you learn the rules, you can find and source the courage to break them and to make your own best impact. And that's, after 24 years in the trenches and having made millions of dollars over the years, I'm there. That's where I'm at right now. I know the rules and I have the courage to want to break them to make the impact that I'm here to make. I am being my own wizard. I would like other people to be their own wizard too. I think the people that have that feeling of being a maverick or a little bit of a disruptor, a little bit creative, I'm probably the kind of person they want to learn from. And if that's the case, hopefully I'll see them at the Align Your Mess
Yes.
Your Magic virtual workshop coming up very soon.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And who doesn't want to be more them and attract more of what fills their cup and is more cake?
Well, and you know what? It takes a fair amount of courage to be who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever faced any kind of life-threatening illness or any kind of challenge, like you draw a line in the sand and see either I'm going to be it or I'm not. So this is me unbridled. And if you're ready to be unbridled too, I'm your gal. And so, Lindsay, thank you so much for this conversation. It was sort
Oh,
of
so good.
fun to, you know, amplify how awesome you are and what it is that you're doing. And I appreciate you amplifying what it is that I'm excited to do. And I know that there's even more magic ahead because
Yeah.
the generosity that we bring to each other and to the communities that we serve is always going to be growing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I would wish for everyone who's watching or listening today.
Agreed. I'm so thankful to have met you and know you and be part of the inner circle and be your friend and you be my client and all the good things. I just feel like you're in so many aspects of my life and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Thank you. Well, that's a fun way to close, which is Steve Sims, who wrote the book Bluefishing, The Art of Making Things Happen. He's one of the mentors that I've admired all these years, and he has a very straightforward way of saying things. And he says, if you wouldn't cross four lanes of traffic to have a drink or a beer or a cup of coffee with somebody, they're probably not your ideal client. And I think that
That's perfect.
the more of us that we pack into what it is that we do, the more people will be attracted to us and want to work with us. And if there are people that you have under the tent that you would not want to grab a beer with, that might be something to look at too.
Hmm.
All
Exactly.
right. Well, thank you for being part of the Be Your Own Wizard show today. If you've
Yeah.
enjoyed it, be sure to rush to the show notes to see all the amazing links that are available so you can partake of Lindsay's brilliance and take a step closer to taking a bite out of what's available at Be Your Own Wizard. This has been a great show. I thank you so much
Hmm.
for watching and I thank you for being
Thank
my
you.
guest. And we will see you next time.